We have a Gang Starr album in 2019, an album I don't think many people were quite expecting, but it's here. We got one. DJ Premier stated in an interview that he was very eager to bring the Gang Starr name back. So what he did for this album, he used unreleased verses from Guru, of course, who passed away, I believe, 9 years ago in 2010, was it? So apparently Guru was always working in this studio, just really hungry and constantly recording different verses all the time. And so what Premier has done is that he's used many of those verses that he's laid down and used them for this album. While Premier himself is using completely new and fresh beats that he's made very recently to match with Guru's verses. And so far the praise has been very overwhelmingly positive. Like, it's been pretty cool to see that a posthumous album can get this much love. Even though posthumous albums usually kind of just get left behind and ignored. And I can definitely see why. I think Premier's work on this album is not to be snuffed at all. I think his beat selection is pretty fantastic. And again, using these verses from Guru, just putting them together like this, I think it takes a lot of skill to make it sound as good as it does. Because it does sound good. I mean, Premier's beat selection here, like I've already mentioned, is pretty stellar for the most part. I think he kind of steals the show on this entire album. The boom bap instrumentals sounding really slick, really crisp. Lights Out just kicks off the album in a perfect way, with that really like punchy drum rhythm, and Guru's rhyming on the track really nicely too. What's Real also has a fantastic like piano line laced into the beat too. Get Together as well, like so many great instrumentals across the whole thing. But the issue is, I think I take with quite often are Guru's verses, unfortunately. Quite often they sound really undeveloped to me. Like, some of the rhyming is so basic, the rhyme schemes on this thing are just so simple at points. It just gets me thinking, did Guru just record these and think, well, this is okay for now, maybe I'll come back to it later and add some more complex rhyming or something like that? Because yeah, it does feel a bit simple. On the track Bad Name, he's talking about the state of rap and attacking, the new generation, the bling era. He attacks specifically at one point. Clearly of its time, of course. I mean, if he was still around today, he'd definitely be attacking the trap trend that's been going on, if back then he was attacking the bling era. Talking about how the true artists really should have been the ones that were getting the riches from the rapping, not those posers that just like wore the big gold chains and shit like that, acted hard and tough. This idea of real hip hop. I mean, yeah, again, like, it is a pretty standard simple verse I've heard a lot from, like, boom bappers over and over again. Then you get tracks like So Many Rappers or Business or Art, which pretty much retread the same themes of what I've just been mentioning just now, of the idea of attacking the rappers for doing it as a business as opposed to doing it for the art. And he also goes to attack like the executives, the people at the top that are just capitalizing on trends to make sure that they can get the money, instead of really caring about rap as an art form. There's definitely something to be said about this. I mean, it's an interesting conversation to have. There are certainly people out there that do capitalize on it, and especially in like today's internet age as well, which again, these verses would have been recorded just before the internet blew up. So I feel as though Guru would have a little bit more to say about that now. But it does, again, just feel a bit basic, surface level interpretations of the industry. So Many Rappers, again, which I've mentioned, touching on the rappers that come and go. They're not really part of the rap game, they're just here. They blow up and then they fizzle out really quickly. And he's bragging on this track as well about how he's the one that stood the test of time. And for a track like this, you want a big punchy moment, a mic drop of like some amazing quotable line, and there just isn't. Like, Guru isn't really selling what makes him special in comparison to everyone else. He's just kind of like talking about what they do and how it's not as good as what he does, and it just gets a bit boring. Now, I know I'm being fairly negative, but there are some really good moments here as well, especially in the guest features. Q-Tip comes in with a really playful, cartoonish chorus, which just is just so Q-Tip. Guru has some actually really interesting verses on this track with describing like the hitman and like the story of someone like, you know, attempting to kill someone. It is pretty cool. From a Distance too has a pretty decent verse from Jeru the Damager, and Guru's verse is pretty good too. And J. Cole's verse was alright, but I think that track just was a bit too focused on like the diamonds thing, the old like diamonds are forever, like real rap songs, My Melody and Cream. It was a bit corny, to be honest, and the diamonds references got really redundant by the end. Get Together was kind of corny too with Neo's verse, even though his vocals are freaking fantastic on this one. But the whole thing about him like chatting up this girl and saying how like he knows Spanish words, but then he's like, oh, that's as far as my Spanish goes. Several words like see, because I like what I see. I was like, oh god. Moments like this really do ruin the album, to be honest. But it's a shame because like DJ Premier's production here is just so good. Like the beats are so good that it kind of elevates my enjoyment of this album quite highly, actually. He's always been one of the best producers around. He's been producing even this decade. Royce da 5'9" even makes an appearance on the album too, although his line about like having Guru's ashes was a bit weird, I thought. But the rest of his verse was pretty good. Just that one line felt a bit distasteful to me. But overall, it is pretty decent. Like I say, Guru isn't at the top of his game, unfortunately, on this, but it is unreleased verses, so I'm kind of conflicted because this is the best you're going to get with unreleased verses. But it's not like the album ruins their legacy or anything like that, because we know how Guru was. I mean, listen to Moment of Truth if you want to hear him at the prime his career. He had so many amazing verses. Just this album doesn't feature the best of his abilities, which is a shame. So I'm going to go 6 out of 10. Not sure if it'll be something I'll be returning to, but I think for what it is, it's decent. Definitely check it out if you're a Gang Starr fan. I think the fans of Gang Starr are going to be pretty excited to see that this is out, and it sounds good for the most part. Let me know what you think of this. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Maybe even more than me. Thank you for watching. Have a good day. Comment, subscribe. Bye.